Hey everybody, it's Mark again. In this video, I'm going to be discussing a clutch system and the purpose behind a clutch system on a clock. Mainly, I'm going to be talking about cuckoo clocks, but almost every clock out there has got a clutch system on it. To include this clock. It's not your typical clutch system, but you have to be able to rotate the hands. And what makes the clutch system on this thing is its pressure fit on this arbor. The clutch system allows you to rotate the hands. On cuckoo clocks, I need to fix this clock. On cuckoo clocks, you can rotate the hour hand both frontwards and backwards, and I highly suggest that you only rotate the minute hand in a clockwise rotation. And this clutch system also prevents these hands from dropping. If it didn't have a clutch system on it, as the hands go from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock, they will drop just because the clutch system isn't working. The clutch system also make sure that the hands rotate as time ticks on. The clutch system on this clock isn't complete until you put the washer and the tapered pin in. Now on this antique grandfather clock here, I've got another video and I discuss this. But you cannot turn the hour hand backwards or frontwards. The hand only rotates when you turn the minute hand. And I have to take this clock back apart because, as you can see, the minute hand is dropping because the clutch system isn't working on this. But that is a different video for a different day. And the reason why you can't rotate the hour hand on this clock, if I was to take this pin, that washer, and the minute hand off, you will see there's a small screw that is screwed on to the hour hand, which in turn is screwed on to the hour hand, the hour shaft. And that is why you can't rotate the hour hand frontwards or backwards on this clock. So when you're putting the clock together, you need to make sure that the hand is in the right position, or you got to take it all back apart. And that's what I got to do to this clock. But with this antique grandfather clock, I can rotate the hour hand frontwards, backwards, and when I rotate the minute hand, it rotates the hour hand, and it should have struck. I just don't have the weight pulled up on it. Again, like I say, this video is mainly about cuckoo clocks, because that's what most of my channel is about. But this is an AMS movement. And as you can see, there's a spring right here on this minute arbor with center wheel. Now this center wheel here is plastic. The clutch system is driven by the main gear, the time side gear. This plastic wheel, in this case, because it's a AMS movement, is attached to this brass wheel. If this brass wheel is not in the right spot, then this isn't going to work. You see how when I rotate this, the minute wheel with center arbor moves around? If this brass fitting is in the wrong spot, this won't work properly. You should have just a little bit of end shake, but not a lot of end shake in the minute wheel with center arbor. So if this brass fitting here is too far down, that means this plastic wheel is going to be too far down, and it's not going to be grabbing this brass wheel that's on the great wheel. If this pinion gear right here is touching the movement, it's not going to work. I don't have all the parts on this, but there would be a snail, and then there would be a wheel here, whether it's plastic. So let's discuss it with the regular 25 movement. Again, great wheel, plastic wheel. That plastic wheel connects to the minute arbor with center wheel. It connects to the center wheel. A lot of the times, these center wheels are plastic. If this plastic wheel is cracked and loose on the shaft, your clock will sit there and tick all day long, but your hands won't turn. And again, there's a spring on the center arbor heel. If that fitting, that brass fitting, is down too low, then that's going to drop this center wheel, and this plastic wheel that's on the great wheel is not going to connect with it. A lot of times this center wheel is plastic. So if it's cracked, your clock will tick all day long, but your hands won't turn. So again, it's all connected to each other. The great wheel with this plastic wheel that connects to that wheel causes this pinion gear to move, which in turn causes this wheel right here that I'm turning to move, which causes the snail to move. But on antique movements, it's different. The wheel here comes off the great wheel. That wheel here has got a clutch system underneath it. It's all part of the clutch system. It's got a compression washer. It's either a 2-prong washer, a 3-prong washer, or a 4-prong washer that puts pressure on this wheel. Again, it's going to be connected to the great wheel. And if that washer is not set right, A, you can't turn your hands because it's too dang tight. You need to loosen it. Or B, it's too loose, and as your hands rotate, they drop. So if your minute hand is not turning as time ticks, it has to do with the clutch system on a clock. So this next portion of the video, I'm going to be talking about a wooden plate movement, which is basically the same thing as well, that's because it is. If a clock has a count wheel on the back and it doesn't have the rack and snail, then that movement will have that wheel that's attached to the great wheel, and there's going to be some kind of pressure system to put pressure on this wheel. What puts pressure on the wheel right now is, for this type of movement, is this plastic wheel. Again, it can't be cracked, is pressure fitted to the shaft of the great wheel, and that plastic wheel is attached to the center wheel on the minute arbor with center wheel, and then this wheel is attached to the pinion gear on the minute arbor center wheel. So kick back, relax, and let's learn things. This thing has been ticking away for about 20 minutes now, and that minute hand has barely moved. And I'm going to show you the reason why. You see how loose this is? the compressions, the clutch system, sorry, is not working. Well, there's a reason why it's not working. So let me get this movement on my desk. As always, you gotta take a little tapered pen out. And this washer here is what holds, this washer here is what holds the hour pipe on. So you take that, when I take this washer off, I want you to notice something. Do you notice something? This is a lantern pinion, and it's missing something. It's missing the part that holds these pins in place. I'm not going to worry about that part right now, but when I take this off, there is no spring, three-prong spring. In order for this system to work, the great wheel is what this goes on. The great wheel is what makes this move, which in turn what makes the minute shaft move, which in turn is what makes the hour pipe turn. Also, you will notice, now this is how I took it apart, okay? This barely catches that, okay? It is catching it, but just barely. It should be at the beginning of the gear. It should be in the middle of the gear. And if this thing had a three-prong compression washer down there, it would lift this thing up higher. So now, the only way to make the hands move is to put pressure on this wheel. Because, again, it's attached to the great wheel, which is attached to the minute pipe, which is attached to the hour pipe, and this thing, I could manually turn it. But this is where I say, if you want to know whether it's turning or not, put you some dots on it, or lines. And pull on the weight to make it tick. And immediately, it's as long as the thing is ticking, you will know whether or not that wheel is turning. Because you don't have a pendulum on it, you should see right away, as long as the clock is ticking, whether or not that those wheels are turning. And I don't see them turn one bit. Yeah, I don't have the washer and I don't have the pin, but when I put the washer and the pin in, there's slop in this wheel, and there shouldn't be slop in this wheel. So I'm going to come up with something to put pressure on this wheel. So I have part of a clock spring. This looks like a 30-hour clock spring. I cut some off, drilled a hole in it, curved the edges up. Now when you put this piece on and it hits that clock spring, when you push down on it, you will see it comes back up, and that's what you want. I'm not going to worry about the lantern pinions at this moment. It's been like that forever. So as long as it works. So I have to be able to push this intermediate wheel down to put the tapered pin in, and that is what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. Now I kind of lined the black marks back up. You should be able to see them in this area right here. Now when I pull on this chain, you should be able to see those black marks moving. The one on the intermediate wheel, which I had lined up with the one on the hour pipe, is now past it. And for those who can't see it, I've got a permanent marker here, and I'm going to put a dot right here, and a dot right, or a line right here. Now you should be able to see those lines, and I just moved them. So I lined them back up. Now I'm pulling on the chain. I just have to get the escapement wheel to you should be able to see that those lines are no longer lined up. But I'm going to continue pulling on this chain so you can see it even more. Except for the escapement wheel is not working all the time. So anyway, the hands will now move. So if your hands are not moving and you have an antique count wheel type movement, it doesn't matter whether it's a wooden plate movement or a brass movement. If it has a count wheel, it's going to have an intermediate wheel here that's part of the great wheel for the time side. That system is called a clutch system. Somebody asked me the other day whether an ink pen spring would work. I highly doubt it. It might work, but that's why I keep stuff like this around. Most people would throw this stuff out. I keep it in with my parts section for when I need to make one of those. Because, like I said, I have a lot of Canwell type clocks. I have a lot of cuckoo clocks. So you never know when you might need one. A lot of times they're only a 3-prong washer. A lot of times the prongs break off. So this comes in handy. Now I'm going to put all this clock back together and hang it back on the wall. And it should work just fine. I forgot to mention, you can take a pair of 10 snips and cut those springs. What I did was use my Dremel with a wheel, a cutting wheel on it, and put a slit in it, and then took a pair of pliers and snapped it. However, in order to drill that hole, it's hardened metal. You need to heat treat it. You need to heat it up to bright orange and let it cool softly so it softens the metal. It still had some spring action in it, so I didn't need to heat treat it. I don't want a hard metal. I want a medium metal, I guess. But anyway, it works. And so, as you can see, it's putting pressure on that intermediate wheel. Not on this side over here, but on the other side. I didn't cut it right. But it's putting pressure on that wheel, and that's the only thing I care about. It's working. I don't know who worked on this thing before. I have an idea, but they might have forgot to put that spring system on there. So the purpose of this video is to explain to you that it has to have this, like I said, it's called a clutch system. It has to have something putting pressure on that wheel before, and I might not have enough pressure on it. The only way to test it is to put your hands on it to see if they drop. If there wasn't enough pressure on it, as the clock as the hands come to about the 3 o'clock position, or even the 1 o'clock position, as it starts coming down, they'll drop, really quickly. I'm concerned about those pins and whether they're straight up and down and whether they're going to work or not. I'm going to take a chance. I don't know if it was originally made that way. I highly doubt it. But like I said, I'm going to take a chance on it to see if it'll work. If not, I'm going to have to come up with a lantern pinion top. And if you watch my other video where I made one out of a penny, it was a pain in the butt, and I don't want to do it again. But I can do it, I just don't want to. The problem with these style clocks is once you hang them on the wall, you can't do any burge adjustments. So I'm going to make a stand, and that way I can put them on the stand in their case to make final burge adjustments. Taking some scrap wood that I have, yeah, this board here is pretty long, but my thought process is to screw one board down and then with the other board use this bolt and drill holes. That way I can adjust this board as I need to with depending on the type of clock that I have. So basically it's going to look something like this, and once I screw the board down and use the bolt for the other boards, it should be fine. And then at the bottom I'll drill a couple holes in that wood for the chains. I will probably drill several holes at the bottom, so it depends on what clock I have on this stand. These are adjustable. Like I said, you want to be able to slide this board here back and forth. Now it's a matter of measuring the width of your clock, which is 8 inches, and then making this about that same width. And like I said, I grab scrap boards around my house. So even though those 2x4s I cut perfect, this board on the bottom is warped. So I will have to put shims underneath this board to level it out. Instead of putting shims underneath this board, I added a couple of screws to this board. That way I can raise them up, lower them down for each clock. Also added these pins. They're safety guards, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. That way while I'm messing with the clock, it can't go to the left and it can't go to the right, because these pins is keeping it in place. So now I can add the weights and put this thing in beat. As you can see, it's pretty dang level, a little bit off, but it'll be good enough, depending on where you put the bubble, I guess. It'll be good enough for me to put this thing in beat, and I can mess with it, where before I couldn't mess with it once the movement was in the case. You know, I had this thing, the movement alone, working on this little homemade stand setup that I had, but once I put it in the case and hung it on the wall, the stupid thing wouldn't go in beat, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. So now I can add the weights and get it going. Now you will see with the pendulum off, it's ticking away. But watch what happens when I put the pendulum on. Alright, fine, it stopped right there. Now with the pendulum on, you don't hear any tick or tock. And I think one of the reasons why is because the pendulum leader wire is touching the crutch assembly, and that's affecting it. You see how much I had to bend the crutch? But it's ticking now. I have to wait. I think it's going to stop, just like with cuckoo clocks. I tell you, if the pendulum leader wire is touching the left side of the foot, then when it stops, then that's the side that you need to bend the crutch assembly so it goes to the left. And before, it was straight, but I had to bend it, so it went to the left. But I think I got to bend it a little bit to the right. But the stand situation is working out great. That way I could see what's going on. And as you can see, I got those screws leveling the clock out because the board I chose has worked. I made the stand like 15 minutes, maybe 20 at the most, so it works, and I'm happy with it. I shouldn't be doing this with my tape measure, but I just wanted to show you the goal of putting a clock in beat. Where the pendulum stops, you want the same amount of distance on the left side as you have on the right side to get that even tick-tock. I don't know if you heard it, but it happened about 8 1/4. Eight and a quarter, and about 5. So it's an inch on this side and 2 1/4 inches on this side. So I need to adjust the crutch. So less on this side and more on this side. I adjusted the crutch so the foot went to the left some more. Now it's a little less than 8 on this side and about 5 and a half on this side. I hope that you can hear that. Let me put the thing somewhere else so it's louder. Let's try this. 7 3/4, 5 1/2. So it's, because we started at 6, it's now 1 3/4 on this side and 1 1/2 on this side. So I need to adjust it so the crutch goes to the left just a tiny bit more. And also keep in mind that I don't have the pendulum directly on the 6. So it might be pretty close right there. I'm going to let it continue to see if it stops. But again, the whole goal of putting a clock in beat, when people say you want the even tick-tock, you got your pendulum stopped. You put a tape measure. I don't care whether you put it on 6 inches, 5 inches, 2 inches, wherever you got the tape measure, wherever the pendulum is stopped, you want the even distance coming this way as you do coming this way to get that even tick-tock. That is what they're talking about. And the fact that for people who can hear an even tick-tock beat, but in reality, it is an even amount of distance in the pendulum bob swing from the left to the right to get that even tick-tock, to get that clock in beat. I hope that this helps, and I hope that clarifies things up. In this case, because the clock is running somewhat evenly tick-tock, I can go ahead and put it on the wall, and you know, even though I got a level here on my stand, depending on the wall, I've got textured walls in my house, so there's going to be some difference. I'm happy with the way this is. I'm happy with this stand. and it was cheap to make. I spent like $4 on the hardware. Scrap boards I had laying around. Now you want the board tall enough to accommodate for your pendulum. If you have a longer pendulum, you need a longer board. And there it is back on the wall. As you can see, these clocks stopped on me. I had a rough day yesterday. I didn't want to get out of bed, so I gotta set them still. Like this clock, I need to stop it and wait until 5 o'clock. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please leave me some comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and may God bless each and every one of you.